For millennia, global trade has been the Earth's sprawling circulatory system, connecting every corner. But what if that entire flow, this lifeblood of nations, suddenly rerouted, pulsing exclusively towards a singular Asian heart? And let's find the answer to the question, what if? With global trade focused solely eastward, Asia would erupt as an economic supernova, driven by unparalleled growth and integration. First, an unprecedented infrastructure boom would transform the continent. Massive investments in Pan-Asian high-speed rail, superports, and advanced digital networks would create a seamless economic zone from the Middle East to the Pacific Rim, exclusively facilitating rapid movement of goods, people, and information within Asia. Next, the region would become an innovation hotbed and capital magnet. Asia would attract the brightest minds and every dollar of international investment, leading to exponential advancements in technology, science, and industry, primarily benefiting Asian nations. Finally, the rise of Pan-Asian economic blocs and unified currencies would consolidate existing regional agreements. New intracontinental trading mechanisms and financial instruments would emerge, simplifying and accelerating trade within this super region and establishing a new global financial order centered in Asia. As Asia monopolizes global trade, the rest of the world would embark on divergent paths of isolation and reinvention. Non-Asian regions would be compelled into radical self-sufficiency, prioritizing local production and consumption. Resource-rich nations would face difficult choices, utilize assets domestically or attempt niche, one-way trade with Asia for non-replicable essentials. Without globalized commerce, economies would evolve along unique, decentralized models, agrarian, localized industrial, or even pre-industrial, dictated by local needs. Inevitably, a brain drain of talent, innovation, and capital would flow eastward. Remaining non-Asian populations would grow culturally insular, fostering distinct identities and localized innovations, uninfluenced by the Asia-centric commercial system. The exclusive eastward shift in trade would fundamentally reorder global geopolitics. Asia, armed with its unparalleled economic leverage, would ascend to a position of global governance. New Asian-led institutions would dictate international norms, laws, and diplomatic priorities, rendering traditional Western-centric bodies largely obsolete. Outside this thriving Asian core, power vacuums would emerge. This would foster the rise of localized sub-regional powers, forming alliances focused on resource protection and heightened border security, completely independent of Asian geopolitical influence. International relations would transform into a complex, often one-sided interaction between the dominant Asian bloc and a multitude of disparate non-Asian entities. Diplomacy would be conducted through limited strategic channels, with Asia invariably setting the terms for all external engagement. The cultural and societal landscape would undergo profound transformations, dividing the world by influence. Asian arts, philosophies, languages, and media would emerge as the universal benchmarks, shaping global aesthetics, education, and social norms, even reaching non-Asian regions through residual cultural diffusion. Conversely, in the isolated parts of the world, innovation would pivot dramatically towards hyper-local, sustainable solutions. Creativity would flourish in new forms of adaptation, driven by survival and specific environmental needs, rather than global market demands. This stark economic divergence would also trigger unprecedented unidirectional migration patterns, a vast, sustained flow of talent and labor towards the prosperous Asian core, profoundly reshaping its demographics. This influx would, in turn, likely necessitate stricter border controls around the Asian sphere to manage the immense human movement. The long-term global landscape. A bifurcated humanity envisions a profoundly altered planet. Asia's economic and cultural supremacy wouldn't be fleeting. The Asian century would morph into an Asian epoch, marking a fundamental, enduring reality of unparalleled prosperity and integrated influence across the supercontinent. Meanwhile, non-Asian regions would navigate diverse destinies. Some might discover sustainable local prosperity through ingenious adaptation, while others could face prolonged hardship, resource depletion, or social fragmentation, entirely dependent on their internal strengths and leadership. Critically, over generations, the concept of a truly global, multilateral trade system would dissolve into a mere historical footnote, replaced by a worldview centered squarely on the thriving Asian core and its largely disconnected, diverse peripheries, with minimal economic interplay ever imagined between them. This future paints a picture of humanity split into distinct spheres, evolving largely independently. A 100% Asian trade focus would create an unparalleled economic supernova there, forcing the rest of the world into localized self-sufficiency and redefining global power. In your opinion, what if global trade shifted 100% of its focus to Asia? Share your thoughts in the comments.